Hello there, welcome. This is Karthik Madugula, aka Karma, the life coach, and today I am here to discuss the topic of fear. This is one of the very important topics that I wanted to cover from so long because fear grips a lot of people in a very big way and makes them incapacitated, decapacitated, and literally traps human potential in a way that it can never be expressed again. So it's a very important villain for us to overtake in life, without which we may not be able to, fully actualize who we are or become successful in life. So I'm going to cover various questions around fear today, and I'm going to read the list right now for all of you. So the first question we will answer is fear. What does it even mean? And then why does fear happen in general? How many types of fears exist? How can fear affect a person? What kind of effects can we see in a person who's going through a lot of fear? And can fear over a long period of time become a trauma, and if it does, how does it become a trauma? So how do decisions made out of fear affect your life overall? How can they reduce the quality of your life? How can they make you land in difficult waters and situations, and how can they make life difficult for you? That's also something we're going to answer. And can large scale disasters happen due to fear, like large scale social disasters? Can it lead to a big mob violence and things like that? And then we'll also then talk about application of fear as a tool. Do we see this in societies at large? Do we see this in some organizations at large where fear is being applied as a tool to get more productivity, and what are the disastrous effect of the same as well? We'll also talk about how to then gain freedom from this fear. What are the various steps that one can take if they find themselves in any of these situations? And then we'll also summarize with the overall learnings from this entire thing and put it all together for you. So, this is going to be the content of today's podcast. So, let's start with our first question. Fear, what does it even mean? What does fear mean? Fear is a state in which we operate lesser than we are. So let me explain this in a little more depth and detail. So when we are afraid, what happens to us is we are in a state of avoidance, we are in a state of panic or anxiety or anything of that sort. We are fretting the happening of something. And yes, in most cases, this is about future, a future event that you're anticipating right now, and you're feeling a lot of fear that it may come true. And if that come true, what is the consequences? So fear happens out of a person's inability to bear the consequences or to bear a particular event that may happen. So essentially, then, fear is all about me not wanting to go through something. And if there is a high chance for that event or that situation to come, then I'm going through a lot of turbulence inside myself because somehow I do want to avoid this situation. This is what fear means. So, why does this fear happen in general? Fear happens because we want to avoid something, or we have a feeling that we will lose something. Think of it this way: if you have nothing to lose, in general, you will not be afraid. Like, for example, if you are not afraid of losing your, if you don't consider losing your life as a big loss, or if you don't consider losing your life as okay, for a cause like freedom or something like that, let us say, then you are not afraid of losing your life, and then you don't show that fear. So take Bhagat Singh or people like that, for example. They cared for the freedom of the country more than their life itself, so they were not afraid of losing their lives. So fear happens only when we feel that we have something to lose, or we believe that we have something to lose, and that a situation may overtake us and we may lose our interests. Okay, so this is when fear happens. I want you to take a quick break right now and think, what are the various situations in which you felt fear, and what did you think you were going to lose in that situation which made you feel afraid? And if you had answer for that question, also now think, was that thing such a big thing that you should have been afraid to lose it, or was it something simple that you're unnecessarily exaggerating and making it difficult for yourself? So that's an interesting exercise to do right now. And then let's look at how many types of fear exist in general. Okay, so there are simple fears, strong fears, phobias, social level mass fears, and also fear being used as a grip, as a tool. Okay, so let's come to simple fears first. Simple fears are things like you falling afraid, you feeling afraid to fall down, or things like you are afraid of losing a friend, or you are afraid of talking to your spouse about something, let us say. Okay, so simple fears are natural reactions that we have when we are about to face certain situation and it's going to be tough. Okay, so if something is going to be tough, we fear a little bit about what the consequence is going to look like, how the event is going to pan. Okay, so in such situation we are a little afraid, and we then think about various ideas that we can come up with so that we can effectively mitigate the situation that we are about to face. So thus simple fears may not be all that bad because they make us more prepared for life. Okay, now let's come to the strong fears. So let us say you are afraid of losing people in life. Okay, and this is a strong fear, you're afraid of being left alone. Now what happens to you is you want to keep pleasing people so that you don't lose them, and you're always afraid of doing something or saying something that may irk people, which may make them leave you. Now that has become a strong fear because it is entirely changing your behavior and state of being as a person. So the difference between a simple fear and a strong fear is that a simple fear may give us some fear, but it does not alter us as a person. It does not change our decisions. We'll still go ahead, we'll feel the fear and still go ahead with what we were supposed to do anyway. But with the case of strong fears, when we feel this fear, although we may want to do something ideally, we will do something else altogether. Let us say, I want to confront my friend on something wrong that they have done, but if I have the fear of losing people, I ideally may want to confront, but I will step back and not confront because the fear of losing this person is more than the desire to confront for truth or things like that. Okay, so a strong fear alters the course of action. It alters the course of decisions and take us towards a lower quality of life in general, because we are always afraid to do the right thing or the thing that is necessary for us. So we'll keep on struggling inside ourselves. And then the third category is phobias. Now, phobia is a strong fear gone too strong. For example, some people have a phobia of heights. Some people have a phobia of meeting new people, or easily trusting other people, or things like that. This comes into social anxiety to a certain extent. Okay, some people may have a phobia a phobia around sounds sometimes. Okay, so phobia is a strong fear that not just alters the course of action, it also wants to significantly avoid that source of fear. So for example, if I'm too afraid of heights, I do not want to go into tall buildings, or if I'm too afraid of lifts or closed spaces, I do not want to ever use the lifts, I'll always take the stairs. Now what this does is it makes us ineffective in life. A strong fear that has converted into a phobia over a period of time makes us very ineffective in life. It makes us slower. It makes our life more difficult in all possible ways. So that's phobias for you. Now, the next category here is social level mass fears. Let us say there is a rumor going around that children are being kidnapped, or there is a rumor going around that someone is going to come and, I don't know, destroy a religious place or whatever it is. Okay, then a massive level social fear takes over. That is what we see communal riots, or that is what we see mob violence out of. Let us say they see one person dressed in a particular different way, and you see that person and you feel that this person is doing some superstitious activity in that area, and all the entire village goes up to beat up this man. Okay, in most cases nothing was actually happening, but a social level fear started for all the people in the village, and they took it down to mass and mob violence. So that's a social level fear. Okay, something that can overtake the conscious of the entire village or the entire town or the city or whatever it is, and people then going forward for mob violence or something which is generally not desirable. Okay. Now sometimes social fear is good also. Like for example, when coronavirus was spreading like crazy, if we did not have that social fear, a common fear among ourselves, we wouldn't have worn the mask or avoided excess public interaction or things like that, and we wouldn't have been able to reduce the spread. So sometimes social fear for good cause is okay, but if it is leading towards something destructive, like destruction of property, destruction of life, killing of people or things like that, it probably is going in the wrong direction. And then there is gripping, using fear as a tool. I mean, the best example that I can give you for this is something like North Korea. The entire country exists on the basis of fear. Fear is being used as a massive tool by the leader of that country, and the people are kept trapped. Okay, we see this sometimes in organizations and in some societies also. The top leader uses fear as a tool to make people perform, to make people run around, to make people obey their orders. And although they might see this as a successful strategy because certain outcomes come easily, because everyone is following you out of fear and quickly they execute what you want them to execute, but overall what happens because of this is there is a mass level fear in the entire population, in that organization or in that society. And there will be nervous breakdowns, there will be very very unwanted circumstances. And the one thing that will be common for all the people that are working in this organization or living in that society is the first chance they get, they want to exit this place or this situation. So, using fear as a tool to motivate people, using fear as a tool to get people to work, probably is not the best. Some disciplining, I'm not against, obviously, but a massive nervous level fear creation probably is not in the best interest, because you will stifle their creativity by doing so. You don't want, as a leader of an organization, for example, you don't want robots that just listen to you and execute what you want. You also want thinking, feeling beings who may contribute better ideas to you on how things should be done or how things can be taken over, right? So using fear as a tool, perhaps not the best thing to do. So yeah, these are the five types of situations in which we will face fears: simple fears, strong fears, phobia level fears, and then massive level social fears, and also using fear as a tool and as stuck in situations where fear is being used as a tool, right? So now let's go ahead and answer the further questions that we had in this situation. So how can fear affect a person? What are the disastrous effects that fear can have on a person at a personal level? So the way that fear can affect a person is, as we already discussed, it alters the course of their decisions. It makes them live lesser than they deserve in most cases. It can make a person kind of constrict themselves, constrain themselves in a very very stressful way, which causes a lot of pain over a period of time. And because they are unable to make the decisions that they want to make because of this fear, they'll start losing confidence, they'll start feeling bad about themselves in a big way, and they will also not feel good in front of other people who may be doing well also. So you will see some people not even wanting to make eye contact sometimes. That happens because over a period of time they went through so much fear that even making eye contact feels like a big deal. So fear, thus, over a period of time, can have a very, very disastrous effect on a person. And if that same fear is extended over a long period of time, it can also become trauma. So if I'm regularly afraid of some strong fear, let us say, if I'm regularly afraid of some strong fear, if I'm regularly afraid of some person that is abusive, if I'm regularly afraid of a boss that is taking advantage of me, over a period of time it can also become significantly stressful inside my system, and it can also lead to becoming a trauma in a certain way. Okay, to see that situation or to feel that situation. That is what generally people develop post traumatic stress disorder out of. They see something that they're very afraid of, and those images, those scenes don't leave them, and then they significantly develop stress, and it becomes a post traumatic stress disorder as well. So, fear over a very long period of time, a strong fear or a phobia level fear over a very long period of time, can definitely transform into trauma that can keep a person gripped for a very long period in their time, in their life. And then decisions that made out of fear can also be very disastrous for a person. So, for example, if you're afraid of losing a person and you made a decision to somehow stick on with them and not confront them, now the cost of that decision will be paid over a long period of time. I see this in a lot of people who kind of do not want to get out of relationships sometimes because they're afraid of that other person feeling bad, or they're afraid of sometimes their parents or society feeling bad. Okay, so out of that decision of fear that how will my parents feel, or what will happen to me, or what will happen to my children, or whatever this is, and this is more prevalent for women obviously. So then they pay a massive cost over a long period of time by not getting out of a situation that is not at all serving them. If anybody who is going through this situation is listening this, please understand that there is a way out, and you can approach the right help and take the right action so that you can get out of this situation. Okay, you do not deserve to live in that fear that something will go wrong. Yes, things may go wrong, but you will definitely fix one thing after the other after the cards have fallen. So, for the fear of the cards falling, please do not make a decision to stay in a place that is not serving you at all. If, for example, if it's a marital situation, if marriage counseling works, go ahead and do that marriage counseling and get the situation better. But if it is not working and the other person is not listening at all, maybe it's time for you to consider breaking your fear and moving ahead in life. Or at least if you are still deciding to stay, learn the art of self management in such a way that no matter what happens around you, you are able to stay sane and stay above the water. So that's going to be very, very important. So please do not make any decision out of fear in life. That's going to be very, 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 very disastrous for you. Okay, even remaining in a particular job. Some people are afraid that they may not get a job outside, and then they stay stuck with a job or a boss that they do not like. So that's again a decision made out of fear. Again, long ranging impacts in terms of staying stuck, not learning new skills, potential being trapped, and growth never happening, confidence being lost, and more stuck in the same situation. So if you make a decision out of fear, what will happen is over a period of time, you'll spiral into the situation even more, and you'll be more and more stuck in the same situation. So it's best to break the fear and take the decision today rather than wait for another 5 years when you will finally make that decision, right? So decision made out of fear can be very disastrous for a person. So whenever you're making a decision, any decision in life, think very clearly whether this decision is coming out of some sort of fear, or some sort of discomfort, or some sort of wanting to avoid something. If a decision is being made out of fear or avoidance or any of these other things, please reconsider your decisions and move towards courage instead. Okay, the first two steps or the 10 steps in this direction will be very painful, because a curve of change never looks like this. It will always look like this. So first there will be a dip for a while, and then things will improve. So please do not go through excessive amount of fear for that one dip. Go through that dip, and graciously you will come out on the other side as well. So now, large scale disasters caused by fears as well. As we were already talking about, mob violence. If something happens in a particular village, you've seen somebody in a very funny clothing or whatever it is, and you're unable to digest it, slowly the rumor starts spreading, and it immediately can give rise to a mob violence. Or even communal riots happen in the same way. So, when you feel that your religion or your group is under attack, you start the wave of fear, and everyone around you is starting to get that wave of fear. And now from that wave of fear, to want to protect themselves, they are ready to attack. This is how large scale disasters can happen. If fear if fear becomes social in a massive level. And then we've also discussed about North Korea as an example, or some organizations in which fear is used as a tool, and how that's not good at all. So now let's discuss about some of the tools or the steps we can take to get rid of some of these fears. So let's start with simple fears. So if you have very simple fears, okay, all you need to do is think of whatever that fear is, or that situation, or that thing that you want to avoid, or the thing that you anticipate will be very tough, and as a result you're feeling afraid. So it could be an exam you're afraid of. It could be confronting someone with a fact that you're afraid of. It could be firing an employee that you need to fire, that you're afraid of. It could be quitting a job that is not serving you anymore, that you're afraid of what will happen next, and whatever this is. So first of all, what happens in our mind when we have a fear is we catastrophize the situation. We look at the consequence as much bigger than it'll actually be. Okay, so your first step when it comes to simple fears is think about what is the realistic consequence that will happen if you take that step. Okay, and then step 2 will be thinking about what are the mitigation steps I can take if these realistic consequences happen. So once you think through these two things, then the step 3 will be to still move ahead in the direction, so that you can break that fear into going into courage and doing what you were supposed to be doing. So again, repeating 3 steps. First, determine realistically what are the consequences of this situation. Then, what are your mitigation steps that you will be taking to cover these consequences? And then, step 3, taking the action on that fear. So, this is for simple fears. Now, when it comes to strong fears, simple logic will not work, because it's a strong fear now. So, what needs to happen in most cases is you break this item, whatever you have. For example, you have a strong fear of losing people, and as a result you are unable to take the decisions that you have to take, do the things that you have to do. Okay, so when you are so afraid of losing people, what you need to do, or the steps you need to take for strong fears, is break it down into chunks. Okay, you want to confront this person finally, obviously, but maybe you are feeling afraid to confront them at once. So break that activity into chunks. So maybe first you start with what they actually did in that situation and what they did not do. Go with fact finding. Okay. Then with cross questioning. What happened here, what happened there, etc. etc. And then slowly come towards finally eventually confronting them. And you can take a couple of days, or even a week or a month to do this activity. So when it comes to strong fears, the steps remain the same, which is you realistically determine whether the consequence is as high, and then you take the steps. You define the steps that you want to take in this direction, and then you act on these steps one by one. It's just that the difference between these two things, between simple fears and strong fears, is that with strong fears you go a little more slower. You don't directly confront or directly attack, but you start very small and go very slow and feel confident as you're going. Okay, now with respect to phobias, how to get rid of phobias. With respect to phobias, what you want to do is, let us say you have the fear of heights, or you have fear of lifts or things like that. Okay, so what you can do is, let us say you take the fear of lift. So with the fear of lift, what you can do is you can go into the lift with someone you really trust. Okay, so when they are beside you, you may feel more confident in taking that step. And then slowly you try to go alone, or you try to at that stage do it with strangers, and slowly as that process goes, you eventually reach a place where you are able to do that alone. And let's say with heights, you are afraid of heights. First get onto a 2-story building, then onto a 3-story building, then onto a 4-story building, then onto a 5-story building, then maybe 10-story, 20-story, like that. Okay, so chunk it up in a way that you will eat that fear one bite at a time. This is what you need to be doing for phobias as well. And when it comes to social mass level fears, see, when it comes to social level fears, the first thing that you have to do is please check for facts. Do not fall for the rumors that will flow around. Okay, please check for the facts appropriately. Do not give in to the popular narrative. Do your own research before you participate in that, in that mass level fear or in that mob violence or whatever that is going to be. Okay, and in most cases, if you do these things like checking the facts and not falling into the narrative, you will most probably avoid yourself from participating in that activity, or even feeling falling threat to that activity, because you may move away from that location. And then being, fear being used as a tool. So if fear has been used as a tool on you for a long time, you are by now most probably institutionalized into that fear. So it's very important we have to define the steps that you can take to come out of that institutionalized fear which has destroyed your confidence over a period of time. So the first thing you need to be doing is you should decide not to be a slave of this fear that is being used on you. That's the first decision. Not that you will be immediately able to break out of that fear, but first make a decision not to be a slave. And then second, wait until you have the guarantee for your personal safety, security, and well-being. Okay? Wait until you have that guarantee. And then third step is you take a minor action to start escaping that fear. Okay, when you're not under the clutch, when you have made sure that your safety is there and things like that, then you make a minor action to escape that situation, to escape that job, to escape that abusive husband or wife, or to escape a society that is using fear as a tool or whatever it is. Okay, and release yourself consciously from the clutch of this fear. So the first step is making a decision not to be a slave. Second step is waiting for the right moment. And the third step is taking that action so that you can escape from this clutch of fear. Okay. And maybe you will benefit from some counseling as well, in terms of overcoming the long term effects of that institutionalized fear. Okay. So, this is our discussion on fear today. Summarizing the learnings that we had, you have nothing to lose. So, consciously and maybe slowly, if that's necessary, consciously and slowly start walking away from that fear step by step. I've given you some amazing strategies and tools today that you can implement and slowly get out of that fear. So I want you to understand, you may be going through some bad situations, you may be going through some tough situations, and you may be facing some tough people or some very, very destroying people. But the world at large is a very safe place today. So you can go out and find a safer, greener space for yourself. But you need to be taking that action to get out there, right? So the world is a much safer place than you think it is, a much kinder place than you think it is. There are those 5, 10 people that destroy the scope for you, which I understand, but the world at large is still a very, very good place. So you have nothing to lose by taking that action. So please start taking that action either today, or start planning for that action and start chunking it up and taking it in step by step, and find your way to courage. And my last point is, if you're going through any strong fears or phobias, or gripped in fear as a tool and institutionalized in that fear, or any of these things, please go out there and seek help. There is much counseling help available. There is many people that is available to help you. Maybe you can start with friends and family, or if friends and family are the reason for the fear, then definitely seek out counseling help as well. So therapy is mandatory for phobia level fears, or being gripped in fear as institutionalized tool and things like that. So definitely go out there and seek the help that you need and deserve, and come out to the courageous side and live a life that you deserve. And don't forget, it's important for you to start owning your days by coming out of this fear, because if you own your day every day, the weeks, the months, and the years